What's this? A letter for me.
Welcome to another episode of Remember the Great Sports Through the Mail Thursdays. Today I'm going to share with you 3 recent returns that I got back in the mail and profile each of the individuals that signed autographs for me. So the first return comes back from Florida, and it is from former Cub / Minnesota Twin catcher George Mitterwald on 1, 2, 3, and 4. And as you can see, those are the cards that I had. I had duplicates there, and he signed all 4 of them, a nice blue fine point Sharpie. So let me tell you about George Mitterwald and his career in baseball. George Mitterwald was a California native. He attended high school in California. He briefly attended college at Chabot College in California when he was signed as a free agent in April of 1965 by the Minnesota Twins. At 20 years old, the catcher appeared in 38 games in the A affiliate of the Twins in 1965. The following year, his first full season, in 1966, he appeared in 90 games for the Twins in their minor league affiliate, and actually got to make his major league debut at the end of September of 1966 at just 21 years old. He was used as a defensive replacement against the Tigers that game and did not get an at-bat that game. In total, he finished out the 1966 season on the roster, appearing in 3 games, and he got his first hit and only 5 at-bats during that tenure with the big club that year. In 1967, they stuck him back in the minor leagues in Double-A, where he appeared in 104 games, putting together a solid season behind the plate. The following year, he moved up to Triple-A at 23 years old and appeared in 104 games that year, but also got a call back up to the majors in 1968, where he finished out in 11 games as the backup backstop for the Twins. Well, 1969 rolled around, and George actually made the club out of spring training. He would primarily be used as the secondary catcher, appearing in 69 games for the club that year in 1969. However, in 1970, George would be pretty much handed the full-time catching duties with the Twins, and he would respond hitting 15 home runs that first year in 117 games in 1970 as the full-time catcher. Well, 1971, he repeated a very similar season, popping 13 home runs, putting a respectable .250 batting average together in 125 games. However, in 1972, I'm going to assume some injuries came up or something along those lines, because he only appeared in 64 games in 1972 and posted just a .184 batting average. Well, he bounced back in 1973, back to the full-time catching duties, where he caught 125 games, posted a .259 batting average, and would have a career-high 16 home runs that year in the 1973 season. Coming off a great season, though, the Minnesota Twins decided to trade him for longtime Chicago Cubs catcher Randy Hundley. Well, George would become the backup catcher. Well, I don't want to say backup catcher. He would split duty at the catching duties in 1974 with the Cubs, with Steve Swisher appearing in 78 games that year. He would follow the 1975 season in a similar role. However, in 1976, he would appear in 101 games behind the plate for the Cubs, and in 1977, 110 games with the club behind the plate. After the 1977 season, George was granted his free agency. He then signed with the Seattle Mariners at the age of 33 years old. Well, the Mariners did not put him in the major leagues, and he appeared in just 21 games for the Mariners AAA affiliate before George decided to hang up the cleats from behind the plate and move on with his life. So in total, George played 11 years in the major leagues, played in 887 games, primarily mostly as a catcher. He did have some first base in there. He had a lifetime batting average of .236 with 76 home runs. Almost immediately after George retired from playing with the Seattle Mariners, he got a position as the bullpen coach with the Oakland A's in 1978. He continued to basically be the bullpen coach or catcher, however you want to call that, all the way through the 1982 season. After his tenure with Billy Martin in 1982, George actually got into the minor league coaching realm. He would coach the Modesto A's from 1983 to 85, then would go back to the team that originally drafted him, the Twins, and coach in their minor league system from 1986 to 87 with the Orlando Twins. Well, after the 87 season with the Twins, he would reunite with Billy Martin with the New York Yankees and be the bullpen coach in 1988 for Martin, his fifth and last term as Yankee manager. Well, after his time with the Yankees, George would go back to coaching, and he would actually coach in the Independent League. And he would coach the Duluth Superior Dukes and would lead them to the 1997 Northern League Championship that year. So very, very happy to add George Mitterwald to the collection. I've actually gotten him before in the past, but never profiled him on my page. I actually have his rookie card signed by him and the other person on the card, I believe, was Rick Rennick, if memory serves me right. And I actually have that completed, and I thought, I've never actually done a video for George, despite me writing George many, many years ago. So thank you, George, for signing for me, and we'll move on to the next return. All right, this next return comes back from California, and it is former Oakland A / Texas Ranger, Ted Kubiak on 4 of 4. And I'd actually seen Ted Kubiak before in person, so this is the first time I actually wrote him TTM through the mail. I saw Ted probably 10 or 15 years ago as a manager of a single A affiliate team, so I did actually get him to sign some vintage cards back in the day for me. But I had a few more laying around, so I decided to write Ted and ask him to sign them through the mail, so I'm going to profile Ted for you and tell you about his career. Ted Kubiak grew up in New Jersey, where he attended high school. He would sign as a minor league free agent with the Kansas City A's, which would later, of course, become the Oakland A's, in 1961. He would spend from 1961 all the way through 1966 playing for the Kansas City A's minor league affiliates. He would put together solid numbers, playing second base and middle infield and short for those affiliates. And then finally, in 1967, he would make the opening day roster and make his major league debut April 14th, 1967, against the Baltimore Orioles. He would just fill in that game, but he would appear in 53 games in total in 1967, and then Kansas City would move across the country to go play in Oakland. Ted would remain as a backup infielder for the A's through 1968 and 69. He would put together solid numbers, and then after the 1969 season, he would be traded to the Milwaukee Brewers. He would spend his first year in Milwaukee being their primary infielder, appearing in 158 games for the Brewers, posting a .252 batting average. The following year, in 1971, he would appear in 89 games for the Brewers until they decided to trade him to the St. Louis Cardinals on July 29, 1971, for veteran Dick Schofield, fireball pitcher Bob Reynolds, and also outfielder Jose Cardenal. So Kubiak would finish out the year with St. Louis, appearing in 32 games. The Cardinals then decided to trade him to the Texas Rangers after that 71 season for Joe Garzanda. He would spend just that one season with the Rangers, only appearing in 46 games in a utility role, until in 1972 in July he would pack his bags again and be traded back to the Oakland A's. Well, this would be a great move for Ted at this time, because the A's would go on to win the World Series, and Ted would garner a World Series ring 3 times after his trade back to Oakland. After the 1974 season with Oakland, Ted would start the year with Oakland in 1975, appearing just 20 games for the Oakland A's that year before they decided to trade him in May to the San Diego Padres for aging veteran relief pitcher Sonny Seibert. He would appear in 87 games to finish out that 1975 season with the Padres, And he would spend the 1976 season at the age of 34, appearing in 96 games for the Padres, posting a .236 batting average, playing a part-time infielder role. In total, Ted Kubiak played 10 years in the major leagues, received 3 World Series rings during that tenure, appearing in 977 games over his 10-year major league career. Kubiak re-entered baseball as a manager and took over as the manager of the Modesto A's in the mid-1989 season. He remained in Modesto for 4 more years before joining the Cleveland Indians organization. He managed the Canton-Akron Indians in 1994 and 95 and then moved down to the New York Penn League for the next 5 years. He was then with the Watertown Indians from 1996 to 1998 and then the Mahoning Valley Scrappers in 1999 and 2000. He moved up to the Columbus Red Sticks in 2001 with the Indians, the Kingston Indians in 2002, and then returned to Mahoning Valley in 2003. From 2004 to 2008, he stepped away from the dugout and was actually the minor league defensive coordinator for the Cleveland Indians. And then in 2009, he returned to managing at the Arizona complex for the Indians, but then took on the full duties in 2010 to coach at the Lake County Captains in the Midwest League. After his tenure in the Midwest League, he would return for a 4th season at Mahoning Valley to begin his 4th season at the helm as their manager. After that, I'm not sure if he coached after 2012. Ted is now retired. I'm assuming he might be involved with the Cleveland Guardians in some capacity because he worked for so long with that organization. However, being he lives out in California, maybe he works for the Oakland A's right now. Not really sure. So I want to thank Ted for signing my cards to the mail. Hopefully that was a quick rundown of his career because he had a very long traveled career as a middle infielder. He played for multiple teams, but I want to thank Ted for signing my cards and move on to the last return. Okay, this last one, a pretty popular TTMer, but believe it or not, I had never written this individual. And I had never gotten his autograph before, and I finally said I'm going to pull the trigger and send a few to him. And this is a return on the Ace of Hearts from former Pittsburgh Pirate great Steve Blass on 1, 2, 3, and 4. And again, got another one of my Pittsburgh Pirate playing cards signed. That's a mouthful. We'll talk about Steve Blass and his career as a Pittsburgh Pirate. Steve Blass grew up and attended high school in Connecticut. He signed as a minor league free agent before the 1960 season with the Pittsburgh Pirates. At just 18 years old, Steve would go to the Class D affiliate of the Pittsburgh Pirates. He would split the season between 2 D affiliates, where he would post a 5-4 record in 12 games. From 1961 through 1963, Steve would work his way through the minor league system of the Pirates, all the way to AAA in 1963, where he would then start the season in 1964 in AAA. However, in May of 1964, on May 10th, the Pirates called the 22-year-old Blass up to the major leagues. In his major league debut, Blass pitched against the Milwaukee Braves and went 5 innings, giving up just 2 hits, striking out 2 and walking 2. Blass would remain with the big club in 1964 in 24 games. He would start 13 of those games. However, in 1965, the club decided to send him back down to the minor leagues to AAA, where he spent the entire season in 1965 in the minor leagues. In 1966, he came back strong after winning 13 and 65 in AAA, and he became a part of the Pittsburgh Pirates starting rotation. Of the 34 games he appeared in, he started 25 and posted an 11-7 record with a 3.87 ERA. Well, the next year, he had some struggles and some injury bugs that he had to get over, and posted just a 6-8 record in 32 games in the 1967 season. Well, Steve would come back in 1968, and out of nowhere, he would appear in 33 games for the Pirates, posting an 18-6 record, leading the league with winning percentage and posting just a 2.12 ERA in that 1968 season. The following year, 1969, he would win 16 games for the Pirates. In 1970, he would dip his win total down to just 10 wins. 1971, he would win 15 games that year, posting just a 2.85 ERA for the club. And in 1972, finally at the age of 30 years old, Steve Blass would make his first All-Star team. He would have a 19-8 record that year with a 2.49 ERA. He didn't win that Cy Young that year in 1972, but it was a pretty impactful year for sure in 1972. Well, this is where things kind of get strange. There is a situation, the best way I can say it is it's a mental breakdown or the yips or whatever they want to call it, that you've probably seen multiple pitchers go throughout their career. Well, Steve Blass was kind of the first person that had these ultimate struggles. So after having the immaculate 1972 season, he went into 1973 and he lost all control of his pitching abilities. His ERA climbed to 9.85 in 1973. He walked 84 batters in 88 and two-thirds innings and only struck out 27 hitters. That actually remains the worst of any pitcher in the modern era because of the amount of innings he pitched, the turnaround. After spending most of the 1947 season in the minor leagues, he retired from baseball in March of 1975. Well, his condition is commonly referred to as the Steve Blass disease. This diagnosis is applied to talented players who inexplicably and permanently seem to lose their ability to throw a baseball accurately. Throughout the history of baseball, there's been a couple people that have been diagnosed with this. To name a few, Rick Ankiel, Mark Wohlers, Dontrell Willis. Well, despite having these problems, Steve did remain at the helm with the Pirates. After Blass worked with the Pirates, he went out and worked on his own for a while, actually selling class rings with Jostens. And then in the early 1980s, he became a part-time TV and radio broadcast person with the Pirates. He would take over full-time in 1986 at the Pirates helm, and he would be on the Pirates commentating staff all the way through the 2005 season, when he would only just do home games. Blass then wound up retiring from broadcasting in 2019 after 60 years with the organization. So Steve Blass actually wrote a book, A Pirate for Life. This came out in 2012. And this man actually spent 60 years with the Pittsburgh Pirates organization. He was inducted into numerous baseball Hall of Fames, the Kingston Professional Baseball Hall of Fame in 1997. He was inducted into the Charleston, West Virginia Baseball Hall of Fame in 2022. And most importantly, Blass was announced as one of the inaugural members of the Pittsburgh Pirates Hall of Fame in August of 2022. So, Steve Blass, forever a Pirate. I have not read the book, so I might try to track down a copy of that, because that would be definitely an interesting book to read, especially his description of his mental breakdown, I guess you would say, on the mound, with how he went from a 19-game winner to couldn't control his pitches the next year. So that might be worth reading, actually. So I want to thank Mr. Blass for signing for me. I want to thank Mr. Kubiak, who had an enormously huge career in baseball, longevity-wise, meaning between being a player and then going on to manage for many, many years in the minor leagues. I also want to thank Mr. George Mitterwald for signing his 3 cards, and then also going on to being a coach for many years in the minor leagues and also the major leagues. I want to thank you for taking the time to listen to me discuss some great players from the 1960s, early 70s era. I look forward to your comments below. And as always, happy collecting.